So in this episode, we get a chance to sit down with Sonny and Craig. They have been instrumental in bringing a progressive training mindset to the Honolulu Police and Fire Department. They talked about being in the Glee Club and looking like the villain from the Karate Kid. We cover a little bit about mental health and the peer support programs that have developed during their careers and what their roles were in the Hibiscus Drive incident. Here we go. All right, welcome to the podcast. This is Thursday, August the 5th, and we are sitting in the Honolulu Police Department in downtown Honolulu. Our podcast is called The Call. We are a part of the Alert training program, Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training, coming out of San Marcos, Texas at Texas State University. My name is Eddie Molina, and I am the Southeast Regional Manager, but I prefer to call myself the Commander. I catch myself. I make it a joke on my emails, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and get the tattoo, Southeast Regional Commander. So I'm the Southeast Regional Manager at the Alert program, and I handle facilitating training for my region. And I'll let my partner introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Emily Pettit. I'm the Senior Regional Coordinator at Alert. I've been there for about 11 years now, so it's been great. Yeah.
Cool. And I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. You guys are representing both the Honolulu Police Department and Fire Department. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, aloha mai kako. My name is Sonny Santos. I'm a major with the Honolulu Police Department.
Thanks,
26 years on and still trucking.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Craig Uchimura, Battalion Chief with the Honolulu Fire Department. Just over 25 years, little over 4 of those years as a Battalion Chief. Currently a Program Manager for the Active Threat Program.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you all both for being here. We're going to delve into a lot of stuff that's specific to your all's departments and why it is that we're here in Honolulu. And I'll start off on our side. The Alert program came into a partnership with the Honolulu Police Department some years back. And what we're doing here this week is kind of helping facilitate a little bit more training and pushing the program a little bit further into what both of your departments are doing. Emily and myself came over from Texas to kind of help foster that along. And we've had the opportunity to participate in the recording of our podcast, and you've given us the opportunity, you guys as the leaders in your all's departments have given us the opportunities to sit down with a lot of people and discuss incidents, discuss island life, and discuss what's going on here in Oahu. You guys are an invaluable source of information for us, and we really appreciate you having us here. So, Sonny, you started out with a cool aloha. I'm not really sure what the second word is that you said. What did that mean?
It's just a greeting, aloha mai kako. So greetings to everyone here, and then kako is like all involved. The two of you here, the folks listening to the podcast, kako. It's a group thing. It's a us thing, right?
Awesome. Okay, cool. That's great information. You're a native from here, from the island?
Yes, I'm a part Hawaiian. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So I've been trying to learn the meanings. It's a beautiful thing. So we talked to some of your all's operators yesterday, and they talked about how at a certain point, and I think we all do that as we become desensitized to what we're doing. They were saying that they became they kind of took it for granted what you guys have on the island because you guys have lived here all your lives. And we come over here to visit, and you have tourists on top of tourists coming over to visit and to see what the beauty is of the islands. And I tell you what, we've driven around the entire island. We drove to the North Shore. We've seen the sights, and it's incredible, what the beauty is here. The vegetation, the water, the formations of everything. It's just great to see. And moreover, the people. The people. You have such a multicultural area, and the overlying sentiment is that everybody's so damn happy here. It's kind of hard not to be happy when you're this close to the water, huh? Mm-hmm. Cool. So did you guys, Craig, were you born and raised here?
Yeah, born and raised here all my life.
Awesome. What high school did you go to?
I went to a public school, Pro City High School, over on the leeward, the west, or kind of more in the central part of the island.
And what was your thing in high school?
You know, if you probably talked to my fourth grade teacher, I was going to be a Major League Baseball player. Played baseball through high school, and then I met my girlfriend, now wife, and grades dropped, and baseball fell to the side, and things happened.
What position did you play?
I was a pitcher.
Yeah. How hard did you throw?
In my mind, it was super fast.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Who was your baseball hero growing up?
You know, back then it was all those Nolan Ryan type era, you know, pitchers, things like that. So.
Yeah, those guys they lasted long, and
Mm-hmm.
they were crazy strong.
Tough old guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, Nolan Ryan's definitely one of the heroes. Definitely one of my baseball heroes growing up as well. Baseball growing up, what other sports did you do, or what other activities outside of that?
You know, nothing. You know, like you were talking to a rescue guys. You surf a little bit. You know, just go to play around. Later in life, mid-20s, started training in Kempo, which is actually where Sonny and I met, along with another mutual friend. That was even before I got into the department. Little while after I got into the department, started doing some jiu-jitsu, stuff like that. So,
Awesome.
and you know, just trying to keep in shape.
That's cool. Sonny, how about you? Were you born and raised here? Tell me about your growing up.
Yeah, so born and raised here on Oahu, within Windward side. So Kaneohe and in Ka'ava, my grandma's house. I was there for a bit. So I went to Kamehameha High School, Kapalama campus here on Oahu. In high school, some swimming, mostly glee club, you know, singing and cultural stuff,
Really?
playing music and
Do you still sing?
in the tub at night, yes.
When no one else is
Yeah,
around?
no one else.
After enough beverages.
Yeah.
Is there any? Did you play any instruments?
Just ukulele, some little bit guitar, but mostly choral stuff. Yeah, so like ensemble, and glee club stuff. Which because we were in our school Kamehameha is for the Native Hawaiian children. We did a lot of cultural exchange, and I was fortunate enough to go to Cook Islands, Tahiti for different cultural exchange events and learn from our brothers and sisters in the Pacific. So,
Oh, wow, that's
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
What kind of I guess what kind of a program was that, or does that still happen where you get to have an exchange program with them?
Yeah, so it was more of a like they have like Pacific Arts Festival. So we went. This is like in the '90s. So the group would go down and we'd stay there for a week and exchange cultures with folk, the Maori from New Zealand or Aotearoa, the Tahitians, the Cook Islanders. So it still happens now, and so there's been a resurgence in a lot of the indigenous and native cultures, right? So it's a good thing that's going on in the Pacific, and Kamehameha Schools is a big part of that.
Tell me about Kamehameha School. You mentioned that something earlier when we were offline. Tell me a little bit about that school.
Yeah, so Kamehameha Schools was founded by Princess Bernice Pauahi Bishop and named after her grandfather, King Kamehameha the Great, King Kamehameha the First, who united the Hawaiian Islands. Initially, the Hawaiian Islands, each island had its own ali'i or king, and Kamehameha was able to unite the islands that way. So we were very fortunate that Princess Pauahi had the vision back in the day to set up the trust for Native Hawaiian children, and there's trustees that manage that and perpetuate the ability of the schools to provide for the Native Hawaiian children.
Do y'all still is there still a state day, like a celebration day, where you guys honor the king?
yeah, there's still holidays that we honor the king, and so yeah.
We've seen we've walked around and driven around and seen different sculptures and different things that art pieces of art that you guys have, but these structures, the statues of King Kamehameha, those are very obviously they're very honored by the people that are around there. So there's gifts brought to them, gifts laid before them in different places. Is that like a standard that you guys have here, or that you see?
Yeah, like we have Iolani Palace here. Actually, the only palace in the United States. A lot of people don't realize that when we had King Kalakaua, like city of Honolulu had electricity before Washington D.C. did. Like so, it's there's a lot of resurgence in the Hawaiian Kingdom prior to the annexation of the United States or the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom. So there's a little I guess resurgence and what is the proper word? I guess with the Native Hawaiian community and the state and the United States, kind of similar issues that occur in between the Native American Indians. So
Oh, okay, I see what
yeah.
you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have some of those. That's a kind of a sensitive topic for the community, and especially for the Native Hawaiian officers that work with the police department and upholding the state laws and being respectful of what the Native Hawaiian community is pushing forward. For trying to get some sovereignty, some other issues. So it's an issue that's ongoing and kind of close to everybody's hearts, especially the Native Hawaiian folks that work for city government, right? So
Yeah, that's a big thing. Did you guys? I know in Texas, of course, we took a Texas history class, right?
Right.
I think it was like about 7th grade in middle school, and of course we had a Texas history in high school. Do you think that Hawaiian history is still studied well enough?
well, I think it depends who's teaching the history, right?
Right.
So prior to when I was in high school, when I was in elementary school, it may be a scrubbed down version.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now that there's more research and analysis of the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom, I think there's a little bit more attention and a little bit more teaching of what actually occurred prior to American businessmen taking part in overthrowing the Hawaiian Kingdom.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of issues that we're trying to sort out, and
Sure.
yeah, so
Okay, that's interesting. I definitely look forward to studying a little bit more about it. Is there any books or any documentaries that are out there that you might, like push for us to take a look at?
yeah, there are tons of them. You
Yeah.
can Google it, and it's all over. But yeah,
That's cool. I think I'm going to do that. I've got a little bit of a plane ride to get home, so yeah, I think it's probably something I can read or
Yeah.
listen to while I'm on there. Wow, that's a great way to open this up, because I really didn't expect to hit that kind of stuff, and I like hearing about it. There's so many different cultures that are here on the island, and people don't think about that. I talked about that recently, the comparison of the islands to the mainland. And in the mainland, hell, just in Texas, you come over there to Texas, and we've got so many different cultures that meld together, and it's really a cool thing to be a part of. But spending time here on the island and talking to just the people, just the first responders alone, here, it's just knowing the different cultures that have come together here. What do you guys think about so many different cultures? It seems like you guys have no problems melding together. Have you all experienced any of that on the native side?
No, it's an awesome thing to have this multi-ethnic melting pot, if you will. And talking to like my grandmother, they grew up on the plantation, and you got pidgin English, which is like slang, but because you had Filipinos, Japanese, Chinese, Portuguese, the language developed in such a way that you would take words and terms from these different languages and ethnicities and kind of make it into this pidgin English that everybody speaks, and it just kind of evolved from there. So it's very, very unique. It's awesome.
So with multicultural You have different languages that evolve. The Pidgin English, I'd heard the term and I'd heard about Pidgin English before, but with so many multiple cultures here, there's always really good food. Tell me about the foods growing up. What was your all's favorite foods, or what was the specialties that your moms and grandmas made?
First of all, why y'all looking at the fat guy? No.
It's your vest. It's
Yeah.
the vest.
It's the best. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing the food and the culture and even how the food is made and the different cultures, how it was brought here, right? I mean, just learning all of that, and it's a great thing. I don't know.
And on the flip side, you know, I'm for myself, I'm 100% Japanese, like fourth generation, and my grandparents would make Japanese food, and as a kid, you're kind of like, hamburger, you know, meatloaf, that'd be kind of awesome, spaghetti. So they started, you know, cooking that type of food, and then as you get older, of course, now you start, like what Sonny was talking about, wanting to go revisit the past, and you know, you gain a better appreciation with age.
Right.
And you kind of miss that stuff. You know, it got kind of watered down because, you know, the grandparents and parents are trying to appease the kids so that they eat what they want to eat, or give them what we wanted to eat. But, you know, over time you realize, it was kind of awesome what they were doing for us by making the traditional foods and things like that. So,
Well, so I'll try not to delve too far into it just yet, but since we're talking about the foods, and you're a firefighter, did you ever have a specialty Japanese dish that you prepared when you were on the cook team?
for me, it's not really a Japanese thing, but it's oxtail soup.
Oh, wow.
It's oxtail soup was my thing, and you wouldn't think that the tail of a cow would cost so much, but when we were young firefighters and the old timers would talk about how beef was 85 cents a pound and the ribeye was $2 or $1.85, and then we go through our careers and you're asking yourself, wait, when did this tail go from $1 or $2 to $7-8 a pound, things like that. But that was kind of my thing, was oxtail soup.
Oh, I love it. I've had that, and it's delicious. Coming from a traditional Hispanic family, yeah, we made the most out of every part of the animal as well. So yeah, we kind of did that as well. And oxtail soup, I love it. Sonny, what was your favorite food growing up?
I have a lot of favorites. Oxtail's up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I think the bentos, the different type of bentos, those
Oh.
like, I guess, lunch boxes
Yeah.
is what you call them, right? So
Yeah.
different the variety. So I have no favorites. I love them all. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's cool. And and I love hearing it. Emily, you remember any specialties that your grandma cooked for you?
I mean,
There's got to be one standout.
I can only think of just like Thanksgiving
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So
That holiday time.
Yeah, holidays. So turkeys and stuffing and mashed potatoes.
Grandma's always
Yeah.
did that in a special way. Grandma's always had there's something to it, whether it was the taste of it or just the smell, and you're just knowing that your grandma was in there doing it. I love that. So the foods, the culture, the family, the Japanese people, the Hawaiian people, everybody's very family oriented, and obviously you guys talk about that. You guys talk about that a lot. Your families were real strong, or that was a strong part of y'all growing up. Looking back on it, did you guys have any of the public service in your all's history? Was your parents or grandparents or anybody part of the police department or fire department?
No.
My dad was actually with HPD for 30 some odd years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time. Wow, that's great. So you have a history of public service. Cool. Did you guys come straight in after schooling and whatever you guys were doing, or did anybody go into the military, any of you guys?
Yeah, so I survived one semester of community college after high school,
Sure.
and then I was told it's time for me to fund my own life. So I joined the reserves, the Army Guard, Hawaii Army National Guard. Gotta wake up at basic and AIT in Fort McClellan, Alabama. So I don't think McClellan's running anymore. I think CDP has I think they're doing chem school stuff over there and some other Center for the Domestic Preparedness. And then I worked on base for like a short time with the DOD police, and then I got accepted into. I put in for the fire department and the police department, and the police department called first. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you've been serving for a long time.
Yeah.
26 years is a big chunk of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is.
That's great.
Yeah.
Craig, so you came into the department. You said you took the test, and things went well for you.
Yeah, that's pretty much how my life and career has gone. You know, path of least resistance. Barely graduated high school. Decided to go to a community college and figure, what's the easiest subject? I'll do like graphic design. And you know, I guess I got a little bit more mature. Decided I needed to have a more steady job. Took the test for the fire department and passed high enough. Took the physical agility, made it in, and 25 years later, it is a long time, but it actually has gone pretty quickly. I think for myself.
Yeah, I did 25 years in the San Antonio Police Department, and it's funny. It's like I looked back on it when I was sitting on 24 years. It's like, golly, this went by so quick, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every bit of it. People ask about the stress and all the other things, but yeah, all that exists. But I think that exists in any job field. It's all what you make of it. And I enjoyed every bit of it, but you're right. It definitely passes quicker than you think, because obviously we don't age. We just, the years go by, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know I aged immensely just, over the last couple of years, and it feels funny. It's like all the little things that tire you out. It's so different once you hit 50. So Craig, after 25 years in the department, you've had several different assignments. What was your favorite assignment?
Let's see. There are actually a couple. As a firefighter one, I was exposed to some awesome leadership. At the time, I had a captain by the name of Roland Harvest. He went on and became an assistant chief, and great mentor. The life lessons that I was getting at the time, I didn't realize how immensely important they were. And the crew that I had as a firefighter one, just several years in, those guys are solid. As I got promoted and when I became a firefighter 3, driving as a engineer or apparatus operator, I have a good friend, Bobby Moss. So the rescue guys mentioned his name. So he was one of those guys that after 4 years that's the least amount of time you need to serve to take a test for the next rank, and he takes the test, he passes it. Then the next couple years, whenever he's ready to go, shortest amount of time, he passes that, becomes a captain within like 10 years. He was on rescue a lot of times, most of his career, but he came out on a engine company and was one of my captains, and I was stationed with him prior. He's the one who I kind of got into jiu-jitsu with, and because of his rescue background, it allowed me to get in on classes with the rescue guys, not having any rescue background or skills. Rescue systems 1 and 2, doing the trench rescue classes, things like that. So it gave me such a better insight to the different facets of the job. That those two things actually wasn't so much calls or anything, but is the people that helped shape me, I think.
Yeah, life lessons is a big thing that we don't realize it's happening when it's happening.
Yes.
My poor kids have to go through that every day, and that's kind of one of the things that I've learned, that things that my parents gave me and coaches and teachers that they gave me along the way, that, like you said, I didn't pay attention to it when it was happening, but I realized it actually went on. What was one of the standout lessons you remember?
That chief, retired chief, Harvest, one of his things was, everybody's gonna mess up, and if you do, just own it. Just own it. Because if you try to cover it up, it just makes things worse. And at the time, you're a young firefighter. If you mess something up, you don't want anybody to know. You're trying to hide different things. And as you go along in your career, you realize, hey, everybody's gonna mess up. And his big thing was it's how you recover.
Yeah.
Being able to troubleshoot the situation is what really makes a difference, because you can teach somebody the process, step 1, step 2, step 3, but if the process gets messed up, it's how you get back on track. I think that was one of the biggest things.
Yeah,
that
those
I
are great
learned.
lessons. Fall down twice, get up 3 times, right?
Mhm.
Sonny, favorite assignments in your department?
Yeah, so I've always been a hands-on patrol operations guy. So I guess my most rewarding assignment would have been like when I was a crime reduction unit sergeant here in Central Honolulu. Like prior to that, I came up through patrol, a foot officer in the crime reduction unit, little narcotics investigation, and I went I got promoted as a detective into criminal investigation. But to bring all that together when I was promoted to sergeant for the crime reduction unit was probably my best assignment. I mean, it's a proactive unit. You're not chasing the radio, the 911 calls. There's identified bad guys. We're going out there and trying to outwit them and be as safe as possible. So I think as a sergeant, you're responsible for 7 officers. And are we gonna stop this car here? Are we gonna take the person down here? Are we gonna hit the front door and look for this bad guy? So I think that pucker factor. You're not exposed to it, and you don't know until you're in that moment. You're responsible, right? So I think that was rewarding. At the time, leadership training or understanding how to communicate, it's all OJT, right? We really, I think across jurisdictions, we really need to improve some of our basic leadership, and
Sure.
for the new sergeants and supervisors, right?
Right.
And basic stuff, leaders' intent, how to communicate with employees, learning to let go and let others, give them the mission, let them figure it out, right? And so that was one of my best assignments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any standout arrests that you can remember? I mean, you spent a lot of time here, and I know you had a lot of hands-on with a lot of big arrests.
Yeah, so I think we had some bank robberies, not uncommon with our brothers and sisters in the mainland. So like some good old-fashioned week-long manhunts.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think on the island that there would be that many hiding places, but some of these guys are hide-and-seek experts, right? I mean, it's like they're champions at hide-and-seek. So a lot of that. But I think I think the more significant standout is like working with Craig and others in EMS and emergency management on just taking that leap into integrated response, right? Like how does it look for that low frequency, high consequence event?
Yeah.
What are we doing? What is our plan? And understanding that no matter how many plans we figure out, I mean, it's a guide. It's gonna punch you in the face when it happens. So how are we adjusting? How are we making things happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the basis of why we're here. We want to talk a little bit about the training, but I'm not going to let you escape on this one because I do have a couple of questions I want to ask you on the arrest side. And if we can't touch them, we can't touch them because of policies and procedures and what's not safe to say out there in the political climate right now.
Right.
But as cops growing up in the department, we all are a part of really fun times. And sometimes those fun times involve car chases. Can you remember the longest car chase you had here in the island? And can we talk about it?
Yeah, no, we can talk about it. So our policy is our pursuit policy is very similar to other policies, right? It depends on the severity of the crime, time of day, amount of people out, the need to apprehend right now, right? And it's changed, right? As cops, our job is to catch the bad guy, and when you're in the moment, it's you're stuck in the moment, and you have that drive. You have that drive to catch the bad guy.
Sure.
So it's the supervisor's job to have that 30,000 foot elevation mindset and say, okay, do we meet these criteria? Like, is it necessary to pursue this vehicle at this time? So for me, the one that stands out in my mind was I was a lieutenant out at the Winter District, Kaneohe, and a call came in that a tourist vehicle was stolen, and the 9-year-old boy was still in the back seat.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So as a public service announcement, if you come to Hawaii and visit the beaches, do not leave your bags or do not leave the keys in the car. Please take it with you and watch it on the beach. And I digress. So at that time, the call came in. It was a bona fide auto theft with a kidnapped child in the back.
Oh
And
my goodness.
so our guys are out there and we're trying to find the car. And most times, if it's just a stolen vehicle, the pursuit is usually stopped by the supervisor. If there's no immediate threat, there's no immediate need to apprehend right away. It's a property crime, right? Stolen
Right.
vehicle. So this was one of the times I came on the radio as a lieutenant, and I'm like, okay, Sonny, let's go through the checklist. Do I meet the criteria? I was like, yeah. So I this is I forget my call sign. 1402. They all know it's the lieutenant. The pursuit is authorized. Stop this vehicle. We need to get that child back. So those are one of the few times where it was a long one, and fortunately along the way, the bad guy, we didn't know at the time, the bad guy had enough smarts to pull over at a mom and pop store and tell the kid to go out and go to the cash register, to the clerk. And then while this is happening, we don't know. So the guys and gals continue to chase the car. We catch the suspect. First thing we open the car, the kid's not there. And then, of course, 30 seconds later, dispatch calls, oh, so-and-so from this store called, there's a child that got dropped off over here. So it worked out well. But, yeah, I mean,
Scary.
weighing that, right? Weighing
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
risk, right? I mean,
Sure.
and that's what our uniform folks across the nation are doing every day, right? And well, am I going to get sued? Should I take action? I mean, like, we've really put our folks protecting the community in a bad position, and what I'm afraid of is that they're going to second guess themselves at making a decision because of how the trend is going now in the persecution of officers and what they do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a high stress environment, no matter how you look at it. And we've talked about it on different occasions on different podcasts. And all you have to do is listen to what's going on out there. People talk about the mental health issue a lot, and what we're doing is we're putting all of our first responders onto a high stress environment, and you're sitting on the hot seat the whole time you're in that job, in that line of work, and it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to deal with, and how you decompress, how you unstress your life, how you de-stress your life, however you want to term it. That's a very important part of the recovery and how you're able to move on afterwards. Is there any big steps that you guys have noticed change in your departments over the years after being here, a long time, 20 plus years? Is there anything that has improved on the mental health side of your all's departments?
For the fire department, yeah, when we first got in, it was just more of there was no critical incident stress management, peer support, or anything like that, stress first aid. It was just more, you suck it up and go to the next one, and like the majority of us. And I'm not sure exactly how far back they started to, it became an issue, the critical incident stress management, CISM, to be offered to the firefighters, and it's since morphed to a program called peer support. And there's a website called firestrong.org where you can anonymously go on there, look at a list of instructors nationwide, and you can kind of log on and just talk to anybody on there. It doesn't have to be from Hawaii or your own department.
Wow.
They offer the services to anybody, and those guys are awesome. When we do encounter those bad calls, myself as a supervisor, I try to check on the crews to ask the captain how that person's doing, how his crew is doing, have him go check down the line, and if anybody needs, the services are out there. The city also offers employee assistance also, but the firestrong.org was a good one for us, a peer support type program.
It sounds like an awesome program. I wonder if that's open to, is that strictly a fire guys thing, or is that something that's open to the LE side as well?
I believe it's the fire side right now. I'm not sure if there's a law enforcement equivalent.
Cool. Well, we'll have to look at that because that sounds very interesting. I'm definitely interested in finding out a little bit more about that, and we'll find out if there's anything on the LE side that kind of matches up to that. Because that's a big thing. We, on both sides, the fire and the LE, we see these incidents all the time. We deal with that. I was reading an article here recently about how repeated exposure to these types of incidents can have their effect on people, and it totally makes sense. How you recover is very important. Sonny, how about on the police department side? Do you all have any kind of a peer support program in place?
Yes. So similar to how Chief Craig mentioned, back in the day, there was no real support program. So we have a similar critical stress debriefs that occur afterwards with psychologists. Also on the team level, we have peer support teams set up within the agency to handle that. And so we saw a lot of, we did quite a few after the hibiscus incident, and that I got to sit in on, and yeah, it's a good thing. I think some of it is just tip of the iceberg stuff, and I think we're continuing to look at how we can better maintain the health of our employees. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know in San Antonio, the San Antonio Fire Department had a few years ago, they lost a firefighter during the act of fighting a fire. And one of the things they did not have in place, which we had in the police department side, was a family assistance officer program, to where when this occasion did occur, and unfortunately it happened so much on our side, we were good at it. And we helped them set that thing up, and it was, like I said, it's all a matter of recovery and all a matter of helping each other out. It's the team mentality. So one of the things that has brought us here to the island, our program, we train officers and firefighters in response. We started out in response to active shooter situations. We've dealt with several other training cycles, different training subjects, and we've kind of pushed it across the country. And a little while back, I was able to be a part of the initial class that was training some of the HPD guys. So Sonny and a couple of other guys came to Palo Alto, California to take an instructor class there. What was the deal? How did this all start up, Sonny?
It actually started, we were preparing for the APEC, the economic conference where various heads of state came to Honolulu, and we were attending a debrief by a briefing session by the FBI. And so in that FBI PowerPoint, they talked about the alert program. And so that's the first I saw of it, wrote down the information, and then I emailed, I forget who it was back then. I don't even know. I don't even know. I forget.
Yeah.
And it might have been Aaron back in the day, but and then myself, Mike Cusamano, and John Heine were crew sergeants at the time, crime reduction unit sergeants, and we got permission to go, and then it just took off from there.
And it's been a great partnership. When you guys came up with this and you guys said, I remember at that class, you told me, you said, we want to bring this to all of our department.
Yeah.
And of course, I was thinking on my own behalf, I was thinking, great, this is going to be a perfect time for me to move to Hawaii. But gosh, what you guys did with the program is you brought the program to the police department and grew the level 1 program, which is basically teaching teaching first responder cops to stop the killing or get to the place as quickly as possible and stop the killing. But you grew it by including the fire department and growing into the air program, which is kind of dealing with an integrated response to all incidents. And that's one of the things that we push, because we have officers out there and firefighters out there that have been on their departments for 20 plus years. And we go to these classes and we ask them, when's the last time you trained with a cop? When's the last time you trained with a firefighter? And everybody has the same answers, like, we've never done this before. So when this program started getting pushed out there and all that training got pushed out there, you see the way we're all the same people and we all work together, and we're at these things all the time anyways. If there's a big accident, fire shows up. If there's a big fire, police shows up. And it's just one of those things where we're always working these things together. So we kind of formalized a little bit of training and put it all together. And now the FD and the PD together are pushing out tons of training. What was the impetus, or what was it like on the front end of the program, putting your two departments together? How did you make that grow?
So I believe it was about 2012, 2013, prior to me kind of coming on board. PD had offered training to the fire department, and back then there was no real formalized RTF type concept, and it was basically jump behind us, bang, 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 okay, treat that guy over there, and they just went time out, hang on, we're not, the union, the administration, they said, we're not doing this, we're absolutely not doing this. Fast forward to, I think it was 2015, and we have a mutual friend, Raymond Craig, and I was talking to him and said, hey, active shooter response, how do we get involved with what PD is doing? He said, oh, talk to Sonny, he's an MED, he's handling the active shooter stuff. I said, okay, called him up. And just by chance, I happened to run into our fire chief at the time, and I said, hey, chief, I think we should look into this active shooter response, you know, and there was no idea about TECC, medical treatment, anything like that, or RTF. It was just, if there's something that happens, how are we going to operate with PD? That was my basic question. And he said, oh, go look into it. Okay, call them up, start talking. I start coming, just hanging around. They're holding a level 1 class, so I'm the fire guy watching them do room entries and come down the hallway, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. They started putting on level 2 classes, and now there's some medical treatment being put on. Say, oh, okay. We start to bring in a few fire guys to come and participate, and it grew from there. The ATRIC at the time, the Active Threat Integrated Response course came up, and you had, I think it was like 30 officers, had about 12 fire and 10 or 12 EMS personnel. The air class, Active Attack Integrated Response class came up, and it just all meshed really well. And we've been lucky enough to be in the positions that we were, to have the ear of our administrators, so that we can kind of tell them it's like a nationwide thing. FBI recognizes this program. This is how everybody's operating, and we got buy-in from there. So it's been pretty seamless, I would say.
That's awesome. You all have definitely grown it. You have strengthened the program, and you guys are very unique in our program. The way you guys run it, it's like a one-stop shop here. You guys take care of the training. You take care of the trainers. You guys push plenty of training out, and I guess just the structure of the department. What makes this unique is that we have Honolulu PD and Honolulu Fire that are doing so much training and creating so many trainers here on the island. You guys have turned around and paid it forward by providing training to the outer islands, and that's a big thing. Having partnerships with all the neighboring agencies on the mainland is tough enough, but having to do it with a body of water between you guys, that's tough. What are the problems you guys have run into doing that?
I can only speak for my experience. I went over to Kauai, and for Honolulu, because we have so many personnel on the fire side and the law enforcement side, I tell the fire guys it's a minimum of two LEO with the rescue task force. You at least have front and rear cover. We go over to Kauai, and they tell we ask them, how many officers are on patrol? 10. So I'm like, okay, so 10 like on the west side, 10 on the south side? No, 10.
Wow.
For the entire island. So, said, okay, if you have one officer and he's willing to take, once the threat has been neutralized, so it's just a matter of morphing or conforming to the local limitations,
yeah.
I would say.
Resource availability, yeah.
Exactly. And from the feedback I've heard, Maui and the Big Island of Hawaii, they were very receptive, and the training went really well. So as far as limitations, just adjusting to the number of personnel that you're going to have available is the big thing. It's a lot more remote, some of the locations on the outer islands.
Sonny, what were some of the pluses? What were the big advantages when you and Craig started getting together and started making this program grow on the integrated response side? What were the things that you saw as the pluses? And was communication better? Was working together better? How did things improve for you guys here on the island?
Yeah, so the pluses were that we're training with our counterparts like monthly, so the police patrol guys would know, okay, who's the engine company folks from fire. So those relationship building things, right, that happen in the training, actually using our interop channels, and actually the guys know, wait, we have interoperability communications, like, okay, what channels are those, like? So we've had it in the system, but they're in place by standard, but we don't exercise it. So when it comes time for the real thing, we don't know. So being able to incorporate that type of thing, and I think especially with working with the outer islands, I think, and even here on Oahu, I think everybody's hungry for the training and getting reps at trying to get it right. I mean, there's, of course, you have a few. Why are we gonna go to training? But at the end of the second day, when the scenarios are done, they're like, "Oh yeah, Sonny, this was a good class." Like, yeah, we like, and the resounding thing is like, can we switch out our annual recall that we have to do every year for the department with this? Like, instead of doing, like, sorry guys, it's that and this. So it's a lot of pluses, and the folks on the ground level and the supervisors, they want it.
Yeah.
And they eat it up.
And as part of the mindset, that's kind of what brought them into the whole realm of public service. And man, they go for it, and it's kind of on us to push it out there more. But yeah, I love hearing these stories of the guys that are out there and they still want the training, and those of y'all who are still out there pushing it, who really want to go out there and push the training as well and provide training. That's real big for us. So you've had incidents come up, and you've had one of the things that we've talked about offline before, and I've talked to some of your other responders here on the island. One of the big incidents that had happened here in the recent past was the Hibiscus Drive incident, and we lost 2 officers that day. Mm-hmm. And obviously we're going to stay away from diving too deep into the incident because there's still ongoing litigation, but we do want to talk about the incident itself and how you guys responded out there, what made things better for you guys, and relate it to the training, and how things have changed along the way. So were both of y'all a part of that incident? Were both of y'all around for that?
So I was on duty that day. It was a Sunday, I believe it was a weekend. Mm-hmm. So prior to the incident, I think it was October of the year prior, so just a few months prior to the Hibiscus incident, there was a barricade situation, and Sonny was involved, and I called him after it was over, and I said, "Hey, I think we got to discuss what happens if this guy maybe sets his house on fire or something." And he was like, "Oh man, I don't want to think about that. It's something we got to address," and we knew that we had to address it. We just didn't know where to start. Fast forward to January, a few months after that, and this incident kicks off. I'm on duty. I'm going to do some drop off some paperwork at another station, and I look at my computer in the truck, and I see, it's like a assault case, and one of the notes so fire and EMS are separate entities with the county. The EMS is under the city, as was the fire department, but we're not integrated like a lot of the mainland departments are. So we get the same notes on our computers. So I looked at it, and it said something about a stabbing and officer, I want to say, I forgot exactly what it was, like officer injured or officer down. So I called him up. I said, "Hey, something's going on, down past Waikiki. He says, oh, okay. And I see more notes, and there's like a note for a second officer. So I call him back, and he goes, yeah, he's starting to hear about it. And he's at the time, they weren't really going to spin up any more resources. And shortly after that, I think that's when all the information kind of started coming together. They deployed. He texts me back, and he says, yes, they're going to go out, meaning the command vehicles and all that. So I tell my driver, turn around. We're going to go back to our station, which houses our fire department command vehicle. Get that rolling down there just in case they need it. Try to get on the phone with the battalion chief that was on scene at the time. He has since retired. He told me, yeah, got a couple officers that are injured. We're staging away from the scene. And I asked him if he needed any assistance, and he says, no, we're okay, because we're just staging. So I'm on the west side of the island, and this is taking place kind of towards the east side. So he's got it handled. I'm not going to step on anybody's toes. Call my off-duty drone guy, Rob, and I said, hey, something's going on. Can you spool up your team and just go down, just stand by and see if they need any help. And it was frustrating because I was involved with this program for such a long time. I'm like, I want to get into the game, but they had it handled, and that was pretty much my extent of that day. And Sonny can take over from there because he was in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was, I remember it was the weekend, and I was working on house stuff, putting a ladder up and, getting the tools out, and I forget what it was. And then, we get the call, and initially it was just injured officers, and we found out it was officers were shot, and so I started making notifications for our division, the major events division. So we're kind of like the kind of coordinate multi-agency effort, right, for our agency with the other stakeholders. So I jump in my police vehicle, and I'm coming down. I remember coming down Leaky Highway, and I look out towards Diamond Head, and then all I see is a black plume of smoke. And I've never seen that before, and it was big, and I was like, what is going on? So we pull up to the scene. To be honest, the first thing I see is a lot of police cars parked all over the place, the normal, like what we tell them not to do, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I get out of my vehicle, and I see the first sergeant. I was like, hey, we need working lanes, like we need clear access. So they got on it fairly quickly. That happened, and there was just first responders everywhere. The bus company was there, EMS was there, just trying to wrap around what's going on. I remember seeing a ladder truck with the nozzle. What do you guys call that, Craig?
The aerial.
The aerial.
Yeah, the ladder pipe.
So it's just like it's unmanned, and they just have it up trying to spray water. Multiple homes are on fire.
Wow.
From over 150 yards away, I can feel the heat from these homes burning, and just trying to take it all in. And luckily, it was just started working with everyone, trying to get things organized. Where we're gonna do rehab, where we're gonna move these displaced citizens, all these families. Working with Red Cross. Working with the bus company to get them shuttled to a better area and out of the park. That day was hectic, trying to organize everything, and even for my team after that, it was still a crime scene. So we were out at the scene for another week. We had good support from the FBI for crime scene recovery, and basically what I kind of describe it is that basically it was a big archaeological dig, right? We're trying to find evidence and figure out what happened, and the power was out, it's you train for it, you plan for it, and when it punches you in the face and it's not the scenario that we thought it was, and we shift gears and we make things happen, right? So a lot of great effort by a lot of people, and it still hurts for the department. I mean, we lost 2 great officers, and just dealing with that and the impact on the families and yeah, it's good. And so like Craig and I agree, like whatever we can share so that others learn from what went well and what didn't and what we need to improve on. Like we can talk about it a little bit more. We're buying different equipment. We're outfitting officers with SCBAs. A lot of our officers were standing next to the firefighters trying to keep weapons up because we didn't know where the suspect was, and firefighters are trying to put out the fire. And so a lot of good lessons learned. Yeah.
You said when you got there that there was a bus company was already there, and you kind of explained that they were being used to help relocate people that were in the area, people who were losing their house at the time, and people that were just in major events like this. And this is one of the things that people don't hear about unless they're involved. When there's a major incident like this and there's maybe an unsafe area, part of our job as law enforcement officers is to evacuate all the people from the danger area. And we sometimes end up having to remove people from their house and ask them to leave, ask them to move. And that's one of those things that was happening during this incident. Was having a bus company respond part of your standard response, or is that something that developed just because of that?
I think it's part of the standard response because once we start shutting down roads, it impacts our bus service, the city's
Right.
bus service. So when that happens, usually a bus supervisor is sent to assess what's going on, and so that they can make adjustments with their command and control on, okay, we're going to route bus number 1 this way. So and luckily we work with those folks a lot too, and so
That's very forward thinking.
Yeah.
We were able to speak with some of the crews involved in the Las Vegas concert shooting, and they said one of the things that they had not prepared for that they put into their response afterwards was from there on out, any major response incident, they started including wrecker services, and now they have wrecker services that are going because of the fact that not because of the general public, but because, like you said, we have cops that will leave their cars anywhere, and we need to clear a path, so we'll have a wrecker available to start moving some of those cars out of the way. That's a real big deal.
Yeah.
So you guys were you guys were already big into training, and then you had this humongous incident. This was a huge test, like you said. No matter what the training's like, and no matter what the scenario was during your training regimen, it's never the same. It's like it's always different when it's in real life. Do you feel like the training that you guys were putting on, the training that you guys had gone through, actually was used out there that day?
I think the biggest takeaway for us from the fire department side was the RTF concept. The concept that law enforcement is going to be there for force protection. And it absolutely did not play out in any way, shape, or form how we do it in a air class. But in talking to the crews afterwards, they said, hey, those guys were eating smoke and they were posted up, and we felt safe. They felt safe at shooting water. To me, that was the biggest takeaway from the training that we had, because there were no RTFs having to go in to provide medical care like how we run the class, but the concept of law enforcement being there, HPD being there for our protection, I think that was from my side, from the fire's perspective, I think that was the biggest takeaway that I got.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is y'all talked to Lieutenant Neil Hahn, who was he was there before I got there at the scene, and everybody knows him from the police service and the fire service. So like they were like, hey, taking direction from those folks, and Sergeant Scotty Nakasone, and because we did the class and we've done training, that relationship's there already, right? And I think one of the big takeaways from us was that in our normal procedures and policies, it's like, don't self-deploy to the scene, don't self-deploy.
Right.
But before you know it, a big scene like this, where we have, how many houses were on fire? Craig?
6 total, and a 7th was partially.
Yeah,
I
so
believe.
we have 7 homes on
Wow.
fire, and we have traffic posts and security posts, and we're trying to get enough long guns to cover multiple engine companies. Like, before you know it, you're eating up your resources. So now we're re-evaluating, like, okay, if it's a significant incident, head to the scene and report to the staging area. Instead of, the don't self-deploy to the scene, don't self-deploy to the scene. No, the new thing is, okay, a supervisor, a leader needs to identify a staging area. Okay, guys, report to the staging area and stand by for instructions. Because we ate through over 100 cops at the scene like that.
Quickly.
Quickly. So that was a big takeaway for us. So, and fortunately, guys responded. They, social media, what they saw, and they put on their kits. They went over there. They're looking for the supervisor. Sarge, where you want me? Like it that's how it happened.
That was one of the discussions we had in a previous episode that we recorded. It's standard that we hear about when there's a big fire. We always hear about firefighters were off duty and they respond and say, you know what, we heard this was going on and we went in there. But from the LE side, I can tell you that it's very rare that we hear about it unless it's a humongous incident. And I heard that about this incident, that we had cops that were off duty and there was a ton of them responding, just putting their gear on and showing up and getting their stuff together and going. And the more I've had the opportunity to have these discussions with people in different incidents across the country, it seems like that's a more standard response for our guys now. And I love hearing about that because they're more bought into the whole public service, mindset. And we love that. So the aftermath of all this stuff, we lost a couple of great officers. Several people lost houses. And both departments were hit pretty hard because it was a traumatic event for everybody to be a witness to. I heard Craig. I heard one of your operators described it as, she said that she could not believe the scale of the incident, how big it was when she described it that way. It's like I took it in. It's like, man, that was very different. Because you guys are used to handling fires. I mean, structure fires, that's a humongous thing. It's like, I'm cool as a cop being able to I can set up traffic for y'all around you and let y'all go do your work. But when a seasoned firefighter describes it as a huge scale incident, that's big. So there was a lot of trauma for everybody to see. So what's the aftermath of this? What's the aftermath we'll go back to the mental health side. What's the aftermath for some of your officers, your supervisors that were out there, guys who lost their close friends? What have y'all seen that y'all had to deal with?
Yeah. So before I forget, I just want to say this, Eddie. Like, I just want to give props off to our EMS. Like they mentioned, Craig mentioned earlier, they're a separate agency. I mean, they were there. They were struggling with the situation as our guys are doing CPR on our officers, and they're trying to coach up our guys. And I don't want to forget emergency management. So our city EOC was activated, like whatever we needed, coordination with Red Cross, getting shelters. Like at one point we were there for over 12 hours, and so I called in like, hey, we need meals for 150 first responders. How are we doing that? And they're like, okay, who's gonna pay for that? How are we figuring out? But I let them handle that, right? So
Right.
So when we talk about whole community approach, right? Like our emergency management folks, we need to really make sure that they're in on the training and understand what's going on. But I just wanted to bring that up before I forgot, because they were a key part in us being able to manage that incident.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate you doing that, because those are things that we forget to say thank you for. But yeah, it's everything that we do is a whole community approach, and we have to say thank you to everybody that was involved.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. And then, I guess the mental health aspect, right? So, yeah, it's still ongoing. I think a lot of decisions were made afterwards for folks that were retirement eligible. Like, okay, we're good. Like it's time to go, and family priorities are gonna prevail, right? So, it still impacts the department. We have a pretty good peer support and program. So we try to reach out to those folks. Some of those folks are been promoted into different positions, but I think it still hurts. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things is how do you deal with it? What are some of the stories that you're hearing afterwards? What are people talking about? Because people have to talk, and it's part of the healing process when you're dealing with these types of incidents. You have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Have you been able to hear some of the guys' stories, some of the operator stories out there?
Yeah, we have, and I was, I don't know if it was fortunate, but I was part of the review process, and we're still kind of working on that. And I was able to view body cam footage, right, of the incident, and you talk about like being there and feeling the pain. It's like it's overwhelming, but I think we are trying to take the standpoint like, hey, how can we learn from this, and how can we make it better in reviewing the body cam, right? So like, okay, what did Sonny Santos not teach in our class that could have helped somebody that day, right? So the reevaluation of how we make the product better. So so we've made some additions to some of our leadership training, and working with fire and ourselves, and trying to get our field supervisors and other folks on the front line, give them more reps, exposures, and really learn from the incident.
Right. I like hearing it. More exposure to the high stress incidents is going to lead to more need for training. You guys are constantly looking for new ways to expand your training and other ways of training. I know you brought out the map behind you guys. You wanted to talk a little bit about it. Jump in there and tell me a little bit about that map and what part of your training program that is.
Yeah, so we in kind of taking some lessons learned from a lot of the training that we've been fortunate to receive from Alert, and the scenarios, how we on day 2 we identify the incident commander, the staging boss, and really utilizing NIMS and ICS to help manage the incidents. For law enforcement, it's a foreign concept that there's more than 1 or 2 cops going to the scene to handle an incident, to handle any case, right? So when we have these big cases that get complex, now there's a big paradigm shift for law enforcement to become proficient in NIMS and ICS, understanding our role in unified command and working with our partners. So the Honolulu Police Department, we kind of we added on, and we just started it. We just finished the 2nd month. We're going on the 3rd month. A basic leadership course, which is a 3-day course for sergeants, and really pounding on the critical incident scene management. So Lieutenant Han, Lieutenant Prop now, and Sergeant Nakasone, really, just getting kind of off of some of the ATREC class stuff, is running them through scenarios and having maps, and like using poker chips, and I think Procknow brought some. Lieutenant Procknow brought here, like we're cheap, right? We just bought regular poker chips, and then just whatever. Okay, you guys, you have whatever 3 cops. Where are we putting them on this incident? And then and then like kind of PowerPoint it, right? Like, okay, now we're getting fire department or what, red chips or whatever else, and we have black or a bad guy for a casualty that's
right.
So really using some of these concepts from ATREC and really making it. Of course, this is a map of a community in Honolulu. So getting those guys to figure out, okay, this may not be a good area to set up the command post because we're not behind hard cover, we're not far enough away. So just those type of concepts, and leaders' intent, how to work with our employees, right? Like our system, we promote test takers and folks who interview well.
Right.
Sometimes we miss it because we don't promote folks that have experience, or folks that know how to talk to their people, or give them clear leaders' intent, clear communication on what the job is to be done, right? So we're really trying to make an effort to improve that. Some of our promotion procedures with the city HR has been to, instead of hypothetical situations, as an officer, what have you done to promote working with the community, or what type of leadership programs or what type of training programs have you helped, right? So it really puts us in a position to get away from folks that are just kind of skating by and are good test takers, to folks that are really getting down in the dirt and making a positive effort and trying to learn and make it better for everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and constantly expanding the program, constantly giving you people new understandings of the challenges that are out there. I think that board game's a great thing. It's part of what we've done in the past in our training program. So this morning on the news, I noticed that, or they reported that they were honoring Tiffany. The International Association of Women Law Enforcement Officers was bestowing a special honor on Tiffany, who was one of the officers that we lost that day. Do you see that people are still reaching out and still people are still trying to provide support for the department and I guess memorials for the officers and what actually happened out there?
I think so. I think the majority of the community understand that our officers are trying to do the best they can with what's going on, and most of our officers are from the community, right? Hawaii's a little bit different. Like we don't have that many, like, I just using it as we don't have folks from California move up to Oregon to be a cop. Like, most of the cops here are either they've been here for generations, family, or got out of the military. But even when you got out of the military, they're living in a community, so their neighbors are there. So everybody knows everybody.
Right.
So it's not like, so your actions as a cop will, like, oh, Auntie so-and-so's heard from a friend that you did this. So there's that aspect to it, right? You know, and everybody knows everybody in Hawaii, right? So I think we don't suffer as much as from some of the situation cops in the mainland are placed in. So I think it's a little different, but I'm a true believer that the community supports the police department. Do we have issues that we need to fix? Absolutely. And are we trying to? Absolutely. Yeah, it's and like you talked earlier, I introduced like Aloha Mai Kako. So it's, for us, Kako is everyone. So it's a Kako thing, right? It's everybody getting involved and trying to make it better. Yeah.
All right. I'll switch gears a little bit and kind of go back to the beginning of all of this. And you talked a little bit about an exchange program that you participated in Tahiti. How far is that from here? Like, what's a flight from here to there?
Hella far.
Hella far. Okay, well, that's a little bit too far then. I was gonna try to throw in a side trip while we're here, but maybe that's not too.
I think it's like, I don't know. Is it like a 7-hour flight?
Well, I want to say it's close to 8. I think.
Yeah.
7 or 8.
Oh, okay. So it's easier to go to the mainland than to go to Tahiti. Okay, I got you. Is there anything else that you guys think that we need to cover on the incident or the training? If Chief Craig became chief for the day, the overall chief of the fire department,
Doomed.
yeah. What's the first thing you put in action?
You know, that's a tough question. I'll circle back to it, but I think part of a major part of the success of the relationship between the departments is Sonny being kind of multilingual in the fact that he does incident management team. He heads that role for the police department, so he's able to speak ICS and understand the process, and that was a big help in not needing to translate things over. Now, as far as what I would do, that's such a tough question, because there's so many things that need to get done, and in order to prioritize, I'd say getting back to the basics. There's so many facets of our jobs, police as well as fire, that we need to be proficient in. We don't get a chance to go up to the plate and take a swing and strike out and then go back, sit down. It's you gotta perform and get a hit every single time.
Yeah.
so I think it's going back to basics, and also what the rescue captains were talking about this morning was common sense. Sonny touched on it a couple minutes ago with test taking and book knowledge. That's great, but when it's on the line and things are flying and things are happening, it's those guys with the experience that make the right decision, I think. So it's a tough one, but getting back to basics, and
That's a big deal. What about you, Sonny, chief for the day?
everybody gets a raise.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a raise.
Everybody gets a raise. I guess I'm gonna pull the Craig Uchimura and circle back on that answer also. but it like I was promoted into this position as a lieutenant with major events, which is all integrated stuff. But I want to just share, like, there's free training out there, and a lot of the firefighters know, like, the National Fire Academy out in Emmitsburg. So, like, FEMA has the National Emergency Training Center, right? And so it's free training, just like Alert. If folks go to, I have the website here, it's training.fema.gov/EMI.
All right.
And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of stuff we do in law enforcement, we think it's not ICS, but it really is. We're just using different terms. So please go to the website, look at some of the free training. The feds fund travel. They house you in the dorms there. It's free training that'll help in the overall whole community approach, right, to how we manage our resources. And the question, Chief, for the it's just like we're doing a little bit of it now. We're trying to, like, our strength lies in our people, in our employees, both sworn and civilian. So being able to understand that as supervisors, and I think the supervisor position in the department, the sergeant specifically, is very key, because they set the tone for day-to-day operations and how things happen. So I think we're focusing on a lot of training and getting those folks to understand that we need our staff. How do we keep the work environment positive, and really bringing them into the fold and contributing and being innovative thinkers, and because those are the folks that are going to make changes, right? Like, for me, like, we have my guys, and I'm not a tech guy, and they're like, hey, we can do this, or we don't need to do signing logs anymore, sir. We can just have them sign in on their digital format. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. So just relying on our folks, giving them the space to be thinkers, be innovative, make positive change within the agency, I think is important.
Yeah, that's a big deal as a leader, to empower the people working for you. I want to hit a couple more things, but I take notes as we go, and stuff that I want to hit on and kind of come back to as well. Craig, you were telling a story earlier, and what was, like, where you were at the time things were happening, and it really has nothing to do with anything else. That I do want to point out that Craig has a driver. And that's pretty high level stuff. Mm-hmm. Sonny, I know that you look for opportunities to push things on your counterpart over there. So I just want to point that out to everybody that's listening. Craig does have a driver. You guys are coming to our conference. We have a big conference end of October, beginning of November. And you guys are a big part of what we do because of the fact that you have grown such a huge program here on the islands. What are you guys bringing to us at the conference?
I've got recruited by Sonny, even though I wasn't physically there, to assist him in presenting.
He loves it.
Talking about the Hibiscus Drive incident. So, we hope to give a pretty good overview of what took place. And like Sonny was saying, good, bad, ugly. There's things that because of legalities we're not able to talk about. But it's such a it was such a unique scene that we feel that it would be worthwhile for people to hear and learn about it, and the steps that we're taking to try and mitigate another type of incident like that. Heaven forbid it happen again, but we are taking steps, and based off of the things that we've learned from that incident. So.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to sharing the story, and that's how we learn from experience. If we can pass on what we've learned from it, and hopefully the next group has that lesson in them. So on the leadership side, I know Sonny and Craig, y'all talk very highly about leadership and leadership training. One of the things that I ask some of the people that I've worked around, and people always have a hesitation before they answer, what are you guys doing to breed your replacement? Because one of the things that I find is very important for me on the team side, when I was on the special operations side, and even now in the position that I'm in now, I've got a full-time position at this program as the commander. And I think it's very important when you're in that role to breed your replacement. What do you guys have, or what do you guys think on that subject?
Yeah, it's important, right? Succession planning, right? We're talking about, and I'm fortunate that I have good supervisors under me, right? Lieutenant Han, Sergeant Nakasone, and they really see the value, and the crew unit stepping up and seeing the value in understanding and learning it and giving it to the patrol guys, right? The poor patrol folks, they don't get training like how our special ops teams get, or our details. So yeah, I'm fortunate in that manner, and in major events, also like training my captain and my lieutenants to be able to step into Sonny's shoes and speak ICS intelligently with the other agencies, right? So yeah, it's important, and that is a priority, and because very soon, right, it's going to be Sonny's retiring.
Yeah.
And who's next, right? So it's important.
Yeah, I've been trying to expose the instructors that we've got. Kiana, who you met, Kiana Cam. We've got another Nate Kaneshiro was actually my driver when I was a captain, and Joby Lapinad. So those three have been instrumental in helping me to instruct. As far as the administrative side, I've been kind of trying to expose them and not scare them away. You got to deal with budget. You got to deal with all of the forms, the documentation. When we got to adjust schedules and things like that. But I'm pretty confident that any or all of those three that I've got working with me, that they can take the program and run with it. Especially because the relationship that we have with HPD, it's very solid. And like when we go to travel and we go to the conferences, the alert conferences, and it's not always the case. We understand that we're on a rock in the middle of the ocean, and if we need help, it's hours, if not days away. So we're all we got. So I'm confident that for the police and the fire side, we're gonna have pretty good success with our future going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I have full confidence in you guys on both your departments. You seem to be very progressive and very innovative in creating new things for yourselves. So I'll ask you the hard questions. These are the good ones, right? Tomorrow we have a major incident or a major meeting. We have a big meeting tomorrow, and Craig Uchimura is stepping out of his truck, which is driven by somebody else. You're stepping out of your truck, and they're playing your walk-up song. What's your walk-up song?
Oh, that's a very good question. It's go with like unorthodox one. It's a song called "Remember the Name" by Fort Minor. It's got some explicit lyrics in it, but it'll kind of pump you up. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that song. Great workout song. I like that song.
Yeah.
Sonny?
Thunder.
Old classics, man. You got to go back to the classics. I like those. So I always try to wrap it up with something fun, and that was definitely fun. But you guys hit that one out of the park. What's the movie look like when they start filming the movie about you guys? Who plays you?
I can guarantee there will be no movie about me.
So, back in the 80s, Karate Kid 2, when I had a bunch of hair, the bad guy from Karate Kid 2 I could have been his stunt double. And he just made an appearance in the recent Cobra Kai series. So
Awesome.
probably have to pick him. He's still around and he's still acting. So
Oh.
the rock for you was already taken, so you got to pick somebody else.
I was gonna bop you on the head if you said twin.
Who do you have, Sonny?
What was the question again?
Who plays you in the movie?
Just go with Jason Momoa.
Thank you.
Mrs. Uchimura, Mama Uchimura, this is an official plea to you. If you could send me a picture of Craig with all that hair, that'd be great. I appreciate that. Guys, that's all I have for you. Is there anything that you guys want to wrap up with? Any message you want to send on behalf of your department or on behalf of the islands or to the mainland, to the people listening and watching? Is there any message you want to send out?
No, I just thank you very much for coming down and having us on the podcast. Just keep plugging away. You know, whether or not the relationship and the program you've got going is going well or not, just keep plugging away. The concepts are solid. From my humble opinion, they're solid, and from what we've seen, they can be modified to your needs. So I think just keep plugging away. It's a solid program with what the product that Alert is putting out, and just try and reach out to as many people as you can. We're trying to reach out to the bases, the federal side. We've got state agencies coming over to train, so we're just trying to hit everybody that we can.
That's
just to
awesome.
spread the word.
Yeah, that's great. Sonny, you have any message?
Nope. But thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, for all the support over there. Shoot, when did we do Palo Alto?
Gosh, what was it, like 2014, 15, something like that?
2014, yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. In fact, that was the same time. That was the last 49ers game in Candlestick.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So that was around that time. But no, I mean, like Craig said, like the concepts are there, and we're really trying to grow from what we're learning and making it better for everyone. And thank you to all the folks back at the Alert Ranch out there in San Marcos. Appreciate it. Don't worry, Doc, Pete. I'm making sure they're working every day out here.
Yes.
It's a rough assignment, but
It's been tough, but we do it for the program.
that's it. Like, you're a giver, right?
I'm a giver, Sonny. I'm a giver. He knows my line. Guys, thanks for being here. Thank you on behalf of the program. Thank you all for giving us your time. Emily, I think that's all we got. Why don't we
All
fade
right.
to black?